Good evening, everyone. This is Janine LaRue once again with LaRuelist Café. We haven't been on for a little while because I've been busy doing some other things. But we thought that this is June. There's an international holiday going on this month. It is my birthday. And I will gladly share my birthday with my twin. Next week, Lord willing, we will be 71 years young. And so I figured since we're going to have this international month of June, something else happens in June every year. And that is we celebrate Pride, normally throughout the world, but particularly here in this country. And, when we talk about pride, we know pride stands for a whole lot of things, but during the month of June, we are talking about the LGBTI community. And it's kind of interesting. Those of you who have gotten to know me well on social media, you know that I am a self-identified lesbian. I didn't come out until I was in my 60s, even though I had a partner where we lived together for almost, well, a little over 2 decades. And those who were family knew that I was gay. Those who were friends knew that I was gay. But then I've learned that there were real family because we talk about, in the gay community, we talk about, are you family? And you say, oh, yes, I'm family. And that means that we are gay. But I found out that I had real blood family, where there were some women in my family who were lesbians. And I never knew it. And the thing that is so fascinating about our family, and now we're talking about the Ruffin family. Many of you know me as a Frisbee. And I have to tell you, I found out that we have a lot of Frisbees who are gay. Many of them are still in the closet. But in the Ruffin family, we were raised in a very, very, very deeply religious family, very conservatively religious, even though we were liberal on other types of issues. And my mother, who was actually a minister, Reverend Susie Frisbee, she was the eldest girl in the family, and I think she was actually the eldest. Period. We have another first cousin who's going to come in and set that record straight, because I think my mom was older than her brother. I mean her father, but we'll get that all straightened out. And then we know we have another first cousin coming on. I know her father was one of the younger ones, and she's one of the younger ones. But we found out that in this very religious family, where we were raised to believe certain things, that we ourselves began to understand our own authentic inclinations, and that we as women just happen to be romantically attracted to women. So my first cousins, these gorgeous women, these very highly educated women, we started chit-chatting because we really didn't know each other that well either, even though our parents were siblings. We started chit-chatting over the pandemic, and we said, you know what? In June, let's just have a family outing. Let's just out ourselves and talk about who we are, how we came to know who we are, and perhaps even leave some nuggets on the table for other family members who are struggling with this, and other young people out there who are struggling with this, and other older people who are struggling with this. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to my family, my real family, my cousins, first cousins. And as you know, most people know, if you're a first cousin, it's really like being a sibling. So I'm going to bring on my first cousins, and we're going to tell our story. And I know we have a lot of family members out there who are watching. So either they'll want to burn us at the stake, or they'll learn something, or those who are afraid to really tell who they are, maybe at the next family reunion, we'll see a little bit more pride colors going on because we know what the deal is. We got Gator. We know what's going on. All right, so come on, family, come on. So I'm gonna start to the it's my far right. I don't know what it is for everybody else, but Cynthia, since you're the baby, we're going to bring you on first. And now, Cynthia Ruffin was, I guess you were born in California, in Canada.
Canada.
Certainly, you were raised in Canada. And we were laughing amongst ourselves because the thing I always thought was cute about the Ruffins over in Canada is that they all had this funny accent. And she doesn't talk the way she totally did when she was younger, but it was always, "How you doing, eh? How you doing? Yes, eh?" And so, but then she came over here and she moved over to California, so now she's with the other C. So, Cynthia, welcome.
Thank
Absolutely
you.
welcome.
Thank you, cousin, very
And
much. And I'm
and
looking forward to nobody burning us at the stake. I
no,
think
no, no.
it's going
Look,
to love us deeper.
they'll love us deeper, and guess what? We'll just put on a big girl britches, and we'll just deal with it because
Yep.
we know how much this family loves us anyway. I mean, what an awesome family we have,
Yeah.
and it's going to be a fun session tonight. They'll learn a lot, and we'll learn a lot. So we're going to come back to you in a second, but thank you so much for carving out some time to do this tonight because I know that you are very, very busy over there on the West Coast, and you have a lot going on. We're going to talk about your journey. We're going to talk about what you do for a living. We're going to talk about our family and how we came out. So the other one, now this one here, I used to know her when she was a little tiny tot and swinging on her mom's dress. And I tell you, she came into her own like a fireball. Have not seen her in the flesh. In fact, I've seen Cynthia because of Uncle Alex's death. But Althea, I haven't seen you since you were a little kid.
It's been years. I remember
More
Terry
than years,
being,
it's been decades.
maybe 4 years old, five at the most. It was like crazy.
So that makes it like 50 years we have not seen each other in person. But
Honestly,
we thank goodness for Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know what the heck he does with other stuff, but I tell you one thing he did great. You brought this family together, and we are so awesome as a team, but we are so excited about being brought together. And so you were born and raised in the city in Philadelphia
yes, I was during the 70s.
during the
Hot
70s.
time.
And when you were a little tot, and I meant to say about the other siblings. Now, my mother was Susie. Now, my mom was older than your dad, right?
Yes, yes,
So mommy was the eldest, and we had Uncle Jim, but mommy was the eldest of this crew.
yes.
And you and your family used to come to the country where I was raised,
Absolutely.
and you would come to the country and have those family picnics back in the woods there in Woodstown.
Absolutely. I actually own the deed to the land that's next door.
Yes, you do. And look, our land got sold. I mean, they have beautiful folks who live in the house, but
Yeah.
you guys still have a piece of the rock right there on Cheney Road.
Yeah. It's just hard to let it go. It really is. It really
But,
is.
well, what we got to do one day, because the land hasn't been cleared, but we should take the whole daggone family down there one day and just bring out some picnic tables and you know how we roll. Just have a real good old time picnic. And I tell you, Cynthia, may I call you Cindy because we
Yes,
always knew you as
Jane.
Cindy. And I know the rest of the world can't call you Cindy, but I just love calling you Cindy. So, Cindy, I don't know if you remember, but the first time I ever left this country, when I never knew about a border, was when my family in 1964 we came to Canada and spent
Oh,
time. Oh yeah, you were. Now, where were you in 1964? Were you born?
wasn't born yet. I was
You
born
weren't
in
even born, so
65.
you didn't even know. Oh yes, oh
That's
yes.
yeah.
We drove up to Canada. We
Yes.
stayed with Uncle Alex and Aunt Jean, the whole family.
Yep.
And it was an amazing experience for us. And so, but I know that Angel, as we
Angel was there. Yep.
Angel was there, and I
Mhm.
don't know, was anybody else born in your family at that time? I don't think so.
No, it was Angel then me. Yeah.
Okay, so Angel at that time
Yeah.
was the only child, a little spoiled, but we just loved it because she had the cutest little accent. Oh my goodness, the cutest little accent. And we had an amazing time. So what I'm going to do, I think at this moment, I would like to us to start individually telling our story. And if you could tell it, you kind of wrap it into the story of the Ruffins, because when we think about where the Ruffins live down in Virginia, and I don't know about the two of you, but when I first started going down to Granny's house, everything was Granny's house. When I started going down to Granny's house, they didn't even have electricity in the houses that we went to. Now, do you remember those houses?
I remember houses that did not have flushing toilets where we used chamber pots.
Okay. Well, see, the houses that we started at, they didn't have the flushing toilets. They had the outhouse during the day and then the little buckets during the
Chamber
evening.
pots at night,
We
yes.
also went to the spring. I don't know if you ever had the joy, Althea,
No.
of going down to the spring. I hated it. We'd go down to the spring and we had to get buckets of water and carry it up. So we
Was that
had to
the Beach
swing
Road
down.
house that people talk about?
What was that?
Was that the Beach Road house that Renee and them
Yes, it was. Yes, it
Okay.
was. And
Uh,
all of us who were old enough to go down there and carry a daggone bucket, we had to do it. And the only lighting we had were kerosene lamps. There
Yes.
was no electricity. So we loved the summer because it stayed light longer. And of course, the way our family, we were all so close that in the winter, you know, you're going to be down there wondering how Santa Claus is going to get down to Virginia and bring our toys. But it got dark so early, so the kerosene lamps came on much earlier. Wood stoves, wood stoves. That's how
yep.
we ate. There were no stoves with electric or gas. That's how we ate, with the big wood stoves. So I'm going to start out there with you. Talk about your journey, if you could, as a child coming up in this religious family. And your dad, you know, he had that baritone voice, and all of us were singers. Well, all those siblings, Granny and Grandpa, sang. I don't think Grandmama even thought about something that two women would get together and love each other, or two men would get together and love each other. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness, the thought of it, she'd say, you're all going to burn and you're going to die and
Mhm.
go to hell, right? So, but tell us, Althea, about your journey.
Well, I think truthfully we know a little bit better than that nowadays. But with my journey really isn't anything special. Growing up in a family that was very, very religious. I mean, every Sunday morning it was, church. It was the WDAS FM or WHAT with Mary Mason and the Gospels all Sunday long. We had breakfast together, we had dinner together. Everything was centered around Sundays. It really was. I think that what I became the the beneficiary of was being born at the right time. I have one sister, she's 9 years older than me. And so during her time period, they were arranged as a choir that went to sing at other churches. And, they really lived this more church centered life. By the time I started coming of age, they were out of that life and they were moving on to secular lives. And I moved on with the church life with my maternal grandmother, but it wasn't as staunch as the life as the religious life that my father's family seemed to thrive in. But again, I think, like I said, I think I really benefited from birth order because during my journey, one of the things that the only thing that was frightening was when I saw this woman who was kind of masculine in nature, and I was attracted to her, and she was the cousin of a really, really close playmate. And I heard the older women in the neighborhood refer to this woman as a bull dagger, or and as a or you were referred to as a bull dyke. And when I heard those terms, I mean, even though I thought Linda was beautiful, I mean, she reminded me of Joan Armatrading. I thought she was beautiful, but the thing is it frightened the hell out of me, and I ran from that concept. I don't think I ran from those feelings, but I just ran from this concept and just stuffed it away, because growing up in Philadelphia, there were so many other things to worry about.
Mm. And especially during the time that you came up, that's when our cities were beginning to really change.
Well, that's when we had Frank L. Rizzo as our chief of
Exactly.
police. Then he became our mayor. Cummerbunds with nightsticks stuck in the cummerbund of his tuxedos. LGBT bars raided, people rounded up and arrested. Lesbian women being made to wear skirts or dresses in order to go to places and not be arrested. It was just insane. The city
Mm.
was on fire.
Mhm.
And so in the backdrop of all of that, I think that my doing what I did really wasn't a big fire when all the other fires were going on.
So, Cynthia, you come from a unique background because Uncle Alex, raised in Virginia, made a decision. He was going to escape all of the old Southern racism down there. And he said, I'm going into the military. And went into the military, fell in love with this woman from, what, Trinidad, right? Your mom's from Trinidad. And oh my goodness, so beautiful. We were like, oh, he married. All we could see is she was foreigner. We don't say that F word anymore. But that's what you said back then. Oh, we just thought, oh, Aunt Jean, Aunt Jean. And I started telling people, making up the big lie that I was actually named after her. People couldn't do the math that when I was born, she was still in Trinidad. But so you grew up in Canada. Tell us about your journey. And then when we come back, I want to talk about our careers, because I think another part of this whole self-actualization is where we found ourselves professionally and connecting with other people. But tell us about your journey.
Yeah. So yeah, I grew up in Montreal, and that's where mom and dad met each other. They met in Montreal and they stayed in Montreal. And it was interesting because Montreal is a little bit different. It's very Eurocentric, it's very French, all of that. So when we were in the States, I mean, when we go down to grandma's place, it was church every Sunday, right? And then Uncle Joe was sometimes, in the pulpit, so it definitely was church. When we were back in Montreal, we were Catholic. So it was church, but it was a whole different kind of church. So we were Catholic in Montreal. We went to Catholic schools. And then, had issues with Catholicism. Didn't particularly, work so well with our family either, because dad couldn't take, unless he converted to Catholicism, he couldn't take communion, stuff like that. So we went, from there, we kind of went to Unity Church, which was a little bit more liberal, but still we got to follow the gospel. Really early on, I think, really quite early on. And then I think I knew for sure around 14 years old that I had the ability to fall in love with women. And it was a fashion model who I fell in love with, and somebody who I saw live, and it was funny sitting literally it was a church fashion show, sitting in between my mother and my father and going like, oh my goodness, what are these feelings that I'm having? And then knowing all through high school that I kind of felt different. And for me, growing up in the suburbs, it didn't even feel like an option. I didn't really know what gay or lesbian or bisexual, I didn't know what it was. I knew that I felt a certain way, but I felt like I felt a way that I would never be able to express myself, because I didn't feel like I knew that it was something that existed, really. Even growing up in Montreal, I was in such a cis hetero world. And then when I moved to, and then when I hit my late teens, graduated high school, went to college, I started feeling more and more like this is not the world for me. I'm never gonna find a boyfriend or a man that I like enough. I just didn't like them enough. And then when I moved to the States, And I moved to the States to be with a boyfriend, moved to the States, to California. And I got here, and as soon as I got here, almost really quickly, I knew that the relationship with him wasn't going to work. And he was a good guy, nothing against him. I just didn't love him. I didn't want him that way. And that's when I began my journey of figuring out who I was and what these feelings that I'd had for so long really meant, and what it really meant about me. And then I came out when I was about 28, and it was a time. It was, a time of really working it out with my family hugely. I always knew that they loved me. I didn't think that they would ever stop loving me, but my parents, both, mom and dad, just had a hard time with it, and it was a little bit of work to get us to where I felt that I would be safe. And safe, when I say safe, I mean like emotionally safe when I went home. The whole idea is, am I going to bring a partner home with me and not feel safe with my partner, not feel that my partner would be treated kindly, you know? So it took me probably till my mid-30s to feel safe. And then around that time is then when daddy started to get sick. He got sick in my mid-30s, and then I feel in some way that we never got to really reconcile my sexual orientation with him, because he got sick and he began to die. So, but now it's a completely different thing in the family, and I think we're all in a really good place with it.
Well, I remember at Uncle Alex's funeral, I said to my partner, because I saw you there with a woman, and I hadn't seen you in years.
Mm-hmm.
And when we went to the repast, I said, Maria, I think my cousin might be gay. And she said, in your family? And I said, I really do think he might be gay. I said, I think that woman there, she's with her. And she's like, oh, Janine, not in this family. And I had to laugh about it. And
Yeah.
so when I found out that you were lesbian, I just didn't know how to approach you. Because one of the things that we've got to share with the audience here today, we didn't really know each other that well.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know each other that well. My mother, being the eldest, when we had family gatherings, I mean, it was a whole big hoopla. Uncle Griffin he was really the patriarch of the men, so if Griffin's in the house, everybody knew to behave themselves. And when Sue came, she was the preacher woman and coming in, bossing everybody around as mom could do. And then Uncle Alex, I mean, this is the guy who was the real dapper guy, and, had traveled all around the world. And so, but when mom died, we didn't see each other anymore. We didn't know very much about each other. And so all I knew was I had these beautiful cousins. I mean, I've got to be straight up with you. And I see Brother Will is on Catan, Sarah's son. I mean, give him a shout. We got a whole lot of relatives on here, so expect the next family reunion is going. It's going to be fascinating.
Uh-huh.
But but it's kind of fascinating because all of this family are very, very nice-looking women, very dapper-looking guys,
Mm-hmm.
and they just really expected certain things out of most of us. But I want to hear from Althea, because I loved it when she told the story that she wasn't worried about what people thought about who she loved, and apparently nobody else was that worried about it either.
Well, my situation was different than Cynthia's. Like I said, we had so much turbulence going on, and there were 7 of us, and I'm number 6 of 7. And so, I guess the test case first was when I came home with a pack of cigarettes. I don't smoke anymore. Don't worry about it. But when I came home with a pack of cigarettes, and I just decided when everybody else was smoking that I would just light a cigarette and I would smoke with everybody else. I wasn't going to ask permission for it, because, when you ask permission for something, you give people the chance to deny you. And so I felt as though it was a decision I was making about my own life, and I wasn't going to be denied that. And so when it came to finally coming out, coming home with a woman or whatever, I felt the same way about it. I just kind of announced it. I didn't do the mom, dad, I need to talk to you type of thing, because I think one thing is that when you build things up, people think they need to react to a certain degree. They think they need to give some type of response since you gave such a build up to it. I think that if you just kind of treat it as the natural progression that it truthfully is, um, first of all, you'll take less flack physically from it, and then secondly, you'll free yourself from the bonds of what other people think about it. Because what other people think about and say about you is a reflection of their own inner world. It's not a reflection of you.
It's fascinating to hear you talk about it like that. And I mean, full disclosure, um, during the times that we have interacted, just preparing for this moment of tonight's show, I will be very honest with the two of you that I have been so envious of the independence and the security and the freedom that the two of you have enjoyed in just coming to grips with your sexuality. See, I always felt, since I'm the oldest girl in the family. I mean, I'm the firstborn female of all of the siblings. And how many siblings were there? I mean, I can't even remember.
13.
13 of them, and I'm the first girl to be born. I always felt a certain weight on my shoulders that I had to be a certain model for all of the family.
Yeah.
There was just this expectations that all of mom's siblings put on me, that grandmom put on me, that my own siblings put on me, that I had to walk this certain walk and that I couldn't disappoint any of you. So I never realized that I even had an option of loving women. I knew that my first experience with a man, sexually, I was a virgin and it was not a willing partner in that act. And so as a virgin, and not willingly having sex with this man, I found myself pregnant from that first encounter and not even knowing what the heck was really going on. Hey, look, ladies, I didn't know anything about semen. I was 17 years old. I had no idea. I didn't know about erection. I didn't know about any of that. So, and even though I'd had a boyfriend for many years, with my mom being a preacher and dad being the head deacon, I was told you don't have sex before you get married. So I wasn't going to have sex before I got married. And I didn't. And so I didn't know that there was this option. So I kept looking for love in a place that it never ever fit. And it was always trying to put a, a square peg into a round hole. And as the two of you know, I fell in love with a woman 20 some years ago. And out of my two failed marriages that were stormy and disappointing and hurtful, I often wonder what your Aunt Sue and my preacher woman mom would have thought once she learned that I fell in love with a woman and literally had the happiest days of a relationship that I've ever had. And which is why I've had some family members even say to me, well, Janine, now that you experienced that and Maria has gone on, maybe you might want to try it again with a man. I said, you just don't get this, do you?
Your 22 years phase.
On the horizon, there is not a chance of a man in my life again. That is like that's in the rear view mirror. So what I'd like to ask you, first of all, I'd like to know, do you identify is this a sexual preference or orientation? And Cindy, I'm going to start with you on that one.
Oh, this is no more a sexual preference than my race is a preference.
I love it.
I am a lesbian. That is my sexual orientation. My pronouns are she, her, but they as well for solidarity, and queen always works. But absolutely an orientation. I think that there is no, I didn't choose to be a lesbian. God made me this way.
Mm.
So it is the way that I came into the world. And quite honestly, I think everybody is exists on a gender spectrum, you know? Whereas we have some aspects of us that are more masculine, some aspects of us that are more feminine. Some people sway way to the feminine side, and some people sway way to the masculine side. But generally speaking, I mean that's to me, it is entirely my orientation.
Mm. And Althea, I know what you're going to say, but I just need you to speak for yourself. So
Well,
what is it?
but no, it's an orientation, but I'm going to say that it's a preference to this extent. You know, I could prefer to live an easier life. I could prefer to find a guy. I could prefer to knuckle under and do the things that lots of women have done throughout the years for the convenience, for
Mhm.
the security. And so, in that regard, you know, I prefer not to, you know. But other than that, I'd say it's an orientation. I can say that honestly, if I were to meet this guy that was just like this guy of my dreams, and he will never exist, believe me, there would be possibly a chance there. But other than that, I love women, and I love women throughout the spectrum of being a woman. I don't like masculine women. I like the versatility of being a woman. I like being able to wear a tie tonight and cufflinks if I want to, but then I can put on a dress and I can put on, well, small heels because I can't wear tall heels, and I can fem it out. I love that versatility, and I wouldn't want to give that up for the world.
You
I'm
know,
with
I'm so
you.
glad you mentioned that, because that's another thing that I think folks who are um, not in the life don't understand
Mhm.
about women who are lesbians. I get up in the morning now. I walk, as you know, I do my 2 to 4 mile walk every day, and I do my training. And I think even my trainer, who's probably watching right now, she kind of thinks it's funny. It's 7:30 in the morning. I have earrings on and lipstick, for training. That's just who I am,
Yep.
So in our world, we do have preferences of what we're looking for in a partner. And, there's no apology for that. I think that some people think, oh, if they're gay or if they're a dyke or butch or whatever, that they they only want one type of woman. That is not so. And so I'd like to hear your opinion on that. And I was glad, Althea, to hear you mention that.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that to a certain extent there's a preference as well. And the other thing is that in terms of people who, I'm a same-sex loving individual, but people have come into my life who I've been attracted to. I mean, even just what 5, 6 years ago, I met a man who I still know. He's a wonderful executive director of an organization here, and I fell so hard, crushed on him. Oh my goodness gracious. And he was feeling me too. And
Right?
and I started to really think about, oh, would I really want to date him for real? And I was really thinking about it. And then part of my thinking went to, I'm a very physical person. I love putting my hands on you. I like sex. And I really started thinking, because I started thinking, ooh, what would making out with him be like? But then
Uh-huh.
I went, oh, making out with
there's the
making out with
rub.
him would go wrong so quickly.
There's the rub.
And I was just like, oh, don't, because I do like him. So the thing is, if we started anything, it would go wrong so fast, and then we wouldn't even be friends anymore. I said, oh, he needs to step away from this good-looking man and just have a
Let's
wonderful.
quit while we're ahead.
What's that?
So here's something I was wondering. Who was the most difficult Now, when I made a decision that I was going to sit down and talk with my kids, and it's funny, I mean, my kids knew I was lesbian when Maria and I were living together. I mean, what do you think when two people come out of the same bedroom in the morning? I mean, what? So,
Slumber party.
I was like, good morning. And so I'm thinking, okay, but I do have to sit down. I have to have this conversation.
Yeah.
So the toughest person I think was probably my daughter. I'm actually in Atlanta right now visiting my daughter. And it's kind of funny because she gave me all my birthday gifts yesterday, and everything is Pride. Everything. I mean, I got the newest Pride sneakers on and all the Pride hat, and oh my goodness. So I was so excited. But she was tough for me to tell. And then my son, he and his wife are so religiously conservative. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be rough. So I told all of the immediate family, kids, grandkids. They were the ones I was really concerned about. But the other person, and I don't know, he's probably watching right now. The other person who was really tough was my twin brother. Now, Cindy, I don't know if you know Jimmy well.
I don't know him well, but I know, yeah, I know
I
Jimmy.
know Althea knows him because he stayed with them for a while, years and years ago, when she
Yeah.
was a little girl. But Jimmy and I were coming from all places. We were actually coming from Virginia. I rode with him, and it was it was late at night. It was pouring down rain, and I'm thinking, and I told Maria, I said, I'm going to tell Jimmy on my way back from Virginia that I'm gay. And she said, "You think he's ready for it?" I said, "He's not." I said, "But he's my twin. He's got to hear it." So we're driving. He's driving, because he's so macho. Women can't drive him anywhere. So he's driving the car, even when he didn't have driver's license. He was still driving because he's so macho. So I said to him, I said, Twinny Winnie, I got something I need to tell you. And he said, really? He said, what? I said, well, Maria and I, we're very, very close. He said, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. He said, I love her. He said, I just love him because everybody called her cousin. And I said, well, I have to tell you, it's not really that kind of closeness. He said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm in love with her. She's like my girlfriend. And he said, are you hungry?
Blood sugar spike.
He said, he said, he said, maybe we can find a place to stop. What are you? I said, Jimmy, do you hear what I'm telling you? He said, we need some gas. He said, it looks like we might be running. I'm like, I don't believe this. And I just sat in the front seat staring at him. And at that time, I still smoked cigarettes. I brought out a cigarette and I started smoking it. And so he drove about 10 more miles. We stopped off somewhere and got gas. And then I said, Jimmy. And he said, it's okay, twin. I said, I'm gay. He said, I love you. I said, is it okay? He said, yeah. He said, do you want something to eat? So we never had that conversation again until years later. But he was my toughest person. So I'm going to ask you, Althea, was there a tough person? If there wasn't a tough person, then who was the easiest person for you to come out to in the family?
The easiest person was my baby brother, Paul. He's always been my champion. We 6 years apart, but we kind of grew up pretty close. And so therefore he was always my champion. And when I told him, he just couldn't be happier. In fact, I had to tell him to stop telling people because I had to let him know that I reserved the right to be able to out myself and that he didn't really need to out me to everyone that he met. The toughest person to tell really was my mom. It really wasn't tough to tell her. It was just tough that she just kind of went quiet about it. She didn't really speak about it, but the partner that I was with at the time that I wound up being with for 25 years, eventually my mother was the person who was buying her Christmas presents and birthday presents when she really didn't buy them even for the male son-in-laws that she had. So, my mother eventually came around, but her religiosity, still, she's 85 years old, God bless her. she's doing well, but her religiosity just kind of stops her just a little short, just a little short. But I the same way that I have respect for her religious beliefs, she has respect for my right to be who I am and my right to love who I want to love, and she's been accepting, and I can't ask for more than that.
That A word, accepting, accepting. Cindy, tell us your story about when you
So,
outed yourself.
mhm. Hands down, the easiest person was Angel. Angel has always been my, make me
Yep.
want to cry. Angel's kind of like my rock,
Mm-hmm.
has always been my rock. She was, I think, it was her and I alone for the first 4 years of my life. And I think we just became best friends then. And I knew that if I could tell Angel, and if Angel was still loved me the way she always loved me, that everybody else would be easy. Mom and dad weren't easy, but I knew that I could always go back and get support from Angel, and I could always go back to mom and dad again because I knew that Angel had my back every single time. And like I said, mom and dad were, they were a little bit hard. They were well, not hard in terms of it was hard for them. They were challenging, but we got to the other side because I think our love was just stronger than anything else, really. And I told him, my mom did say, well, if any of my kids were going to be gay, I guess it would have been you. So that little bit of, I kind of always knew. Angel said, of course I knew. Greg, yeah, it was about time you came out. Rowena with a little bit, she was a little bit challenged by it, I think, but she came right on in as well. And I've had you know some wonderful partners, and and I've always felt like I could bring them home. I mean, after we got through, telling mom and dad, and to the other side of the challenging stuff, feeling like, I could bring partners home, if I wanted to. But yeah, Angel was the first person I went to, and because I really felt like as long as Angel was okay with me, then I was going to be okay, you know.
I love it. And, I know Angel, when she heard that we were going to do this show, she was ready weeks ago. Send me the link. What can I do? She subscribed right away. She just wanted to be so much a part of this. And she was always our special kid because she was the first one that popped out from all of you. And it was the time that we were all really connected. And we're never going to be disconnected again. We are, and you know what? It's going to be the three lesbians who are going to start leading this freaking family to get back,
You better believe we're getting this back in. Yes.
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
And
So
yes.
I just have a couple more things that I wanted to go through before we end the show. I have to tell you, I could talk to you two beautiful people all night long. I really could. Um, Althea, we don't have as much daytime left as the other cousin since she's on the West Coast, so it's still early in the day for her. But I do want to know what advice, because we have some people in our own family who I happen to know, some of the younger people who have confided in me that they are gay, um, men and women, um, a young girl. And I know that I have a circle of friends where they have some children who are gay, and they are not accepting that A word again that Althea threw out. Um, what advice do we want to give? Cynthia, you go first, and we'll wrap that part of it up with Althea. What advice do we want to give to family members
Yeah.
about folks in their family? Because here's the other thing we have to remember: people in families know who's who.
Yes.
They know. And is it fair that young folks in families, or even older people in families, walk around with this secret inside of them, hurting because they want to be accepted, and the family knows, but nobody talks about it, and the individual doesn't feel secure enough to talk about it. What do we do about that? Cynthia, you go first.
So, it's so interesting. So we had there's a I don't follow sports so much, but there's that NFL player, Carl something or other, who came out this week as the first professional sports football player who's actually come out while he's still on a team and while he's still playing. And I listened to Wade Davis speak this morning about it, and he was talking about things like watching replays of himself. And Wade Davis came out after he left the NFL, but him remembering back and when he was rewatching plays of himself on the field and sitting there in the locker room with his coworkers, right? The athletes that he played with, and sitting there watching the videos and saying, oh my God, I look like I'm walking gay. Oh shoot, I sounded gay when I said that. Oh, look at my hand there. I hope people don't see I'm gay. And the other thing he said about that, he said, how awful it is. He's supposed to be watching those videos so that he can improve his performance on the field. He's at work, right? And all he can think about is the fact that he needs to hide himself out of fear of what can happen on the field if he's not closeted about himself. And I think that is no way for a person to be their best self. No way for a person to be their best self in the world at all. And what I would say to my family members, so now the field that I work in, I run a counseling service for LGBTQ identified youth. And also we can serve their parents and their partners as well. And what I say from the get-go is that love is love. And I think that's what pulled me through our family, and knowing that people, my parents had different ideas about who I would become as I became, as I grew into my adulthood and became a woman. But who I'm going to become is who I'm going to become. And, and our parents, our families can make the decision that whether or not they still want to love us and whether they want us in their lives still. And for myself, I really had to come to terms with who I was, and knowing that I'm a good person. I do good work in the world. I have good community of people around me, and I want to be connected with my family. And knowing those things about myself, knowing that I was worthy and deserving, then allowed my family to see something different. And I really think that our parents and our families have to just, come to terms with love is love. And if you're going to love your people, then you got to love them. But also the other thing with love is you can't expect people on either side, our parents and our families and myself as well. I can't say, no, I'm different than what you expected. You need to get over it. And you need to love me now. I need grace, and so does my family need grace. So I have to realize that when it comes right down to it, I'm going to stay because I love you. I love you, and I want to be here. I'm not gonna give myself up, right? But I want to be here with you. And I was prepared to lose. I was prepared that maybe my family wouldn't come with me. I didn't think that was going to be the case. But I was prepared. And the other thing I would say, especially to young people and to older people as well, is now that in our family, they know with no uncertain terms that Janine and Cynthia and Althea are lesbians, right? Come to us. Come to me. The younger ones in the family, come to me.
Yes.
Because we're family. And even the older ones who might need to have conversations about, oh my goodness, I think I've got a gender expansive child in my hands and I don't know what to do. Come to me. And together we will walk through this, and we will hold each other up.
I got some chills right there. And as you were speaking, another first cousin, George Ruffin, says, I love you ladies. And we love you too, cousin. Althea.
Yes.
Some more nuggets for what do you say? We even have a person in the chat saying, I need this advice. What do we say to family members when they know someone is struggling with this?
Well, The first thing is that, there are people in the family that, and there have been friends I've had over the years where I've known who they were long before they knew who they were.
Yeah.
And with those people, it's not for me to out those people. It's not for me to tell them what I think their orientation or their preferences. Everything in its due time. And when people are ready to, they're ready to. And some people never get ready to. Some people never feel comfortable doing that. They never feel comfortable establishing that level of intimacy with someone, even though they feel they have an orientation in that regard. What I say is that if you know someone in your family who is, you think is struggling with this, is that you decide that you're, again, as Cynthia said, that you're going to love them. Love and light opens up everything. And it's only hatred that shuts things down. It's only, that's when you start to build structures around everything. That's when you start to boundary off everything. And when you're structured off and bounded off, you can't work with other people. You can't meld. You can't expand. Life is about becoming expansive. Love is about being expansive. And so the thing is that, inclusiveness is the key. And pulling this person into your life and saying, I love you no matter what. Love you no matter who. I love you no matter why.
Yeah. Yes. We have one last question we're gonna deal with. And that is, and thank you. I see my sister Sarah's on here saying, I love you guys.
Sadie.
I miss hearing your voice. And we have Angel has signed on. Well, she's been on for a while. She's
Hi, Angel.
Hooray, my ladies. I love you. It feels so good seeing family. And we already talked about Will. But we're going to end up as to why the show even started here. And that is about us and our faith. I want to talk about that. As each of you knows, and most of the folks who affiliate with me, they know about the passing of Maria. And as I mentioned to you, where I am right now, those who know me know that another person, not even a person in my heart, it's my dog, little Jackson. Everybody knows that I do not leave Jackson. This is the first time ever I have been separated from Jackson in another state. He had surgery a few years ago. We were in the same state. They kept him one night. I said, I don't care. He's got to come home with me the next day. I'll take care of him. And then he had surgery a few months ago. And I after one day, I said, I'm coming to get him. I'll take care of him. So here I am down in Atlanta for 4 days without my Jackson. It's the first time ever. But I'm down here, and tomorrow, I haven't been to Atlanta since Maria was struggling with pancreatic cancer. And I wasn't able to travel because of the pandemic during her struggle. So I watched her passing on FaceTime. And she died here in Atlanta. So tomorrow I'll be having breakfast with her daughter. My daughter and her daughter will have breakfast. And tomorrow I bought an urn for her remains, and I've never had a chance to actually see that urn and touch that urn and spend some time with it. And I will do that tomorrow. I need to do it. I need to move on. So when we talk about our faith, I know for a fact that for 22 years, I was loved deeply by someone where it's just really hard to believe that she's not here right now physically, but she's here spiritually. But one of the things that gives me comfort during her 11.5-month battle with cancer, every morning, even though we were in 2 different states because of this pandemic, every morning, somewhere between 5:30 and 8 o'clock in the morning, my cell phone would ring, and she would always say the same thing: "Good morning, it's prayer time." And every morning, except the last 3 days of her life, every morning I would say a prayer for her. She wanted prayer time. And I would always end the prayer with the same line that let us be grateful for every week, every day, every hour, every minute of breath that we have every second. I wanted her to process that as she came to terms with the fact that she was transitioning. And now that she has transitioned, I do believe that in the sight of God, that was a relationship that was blessed, that was absolutely blessed, and it was absolutely the right relationship for me. So I'm not a church goer, but I will tell you that when my eyes open in the morning and my feet touch the floor, the next thing that happens every morning is that I don't just sit on the side of the bed and pray. I get on my knees and I thank God for the day ahead of me. And every single night before I close my eyes, I get on my knees and I thank God for this day. And I just happen to believe that God hears me. And I believe that there is a heaven. And I believe that that's where I'm going. So I would like to hear from the two of you, my dear cousins, what is your faith? Tell us about your faith, and we will end the show on that note, because that's the note that we started and why we're having this. Coming from the religious family that we are a part of, that we believe that we are just as spiritual and just as religious as any of them. Tell us, Cindy, about your faith.
So, for the last 11 years, I have been a practicing Buddhist. And it's interesting because my faith went through, a couple of different machinations. I mean, I told you that we grew up in the Catholic Church mostly. And the Catholic Church is sometimes a little fire and brimstony. And I remember quite specifically, I was 7 years old and we were in church and the preacher was preaching fire and brimstone. And I remember saying to myself at 7 years old, I don't think that man knows God, really. I don't think he knows God. Because the God that he's talking, I don't understand. The God that he's talking about is telling me that I am not a good person. And I know that God loves me. So I went through a period of not really going to church at all. And then a number of years, 10 and a half years ago, when I found Nichiren Buddhism, it resonated with me because it allowed me to understand for myself that I am the living representation of God.
Mm.
God curses through every single vein in my body. Absolutely, there is God. And my faith is strong. I know that, that it's unknown. We sit back, we do things, we grapple with things like, where do miracles come from and how do these things come? And well, they come from the unknown. They come from the causes and the prayers and the chanting that I put out into the world. It's circular and it comes right back to me.
Mm.
And I really feel that this body that I have is really it's the instrument, the tool that I've been given for this lifetime. But I truly believe that my spirit and my soul is eternal. It is absolutely eternal. And this body is only part of my eternal experience. So I have strong faith, and my faith is based in, the practice of Buddhism, the idea that All of us have Buddhist nature. Some of us are closer to the highest form of our Buddhism, and others maybe not. But all of us have Buddha nature. And that kind of like goes back to the idea of namaste. The God in me sees the God in you. And I love and appreciate the God in you. Even if sometimes you don't see the God in yourself, I see that there is God in you. And it's the idea of, it's a practice of compassion and of looking out for humanity and doing the work for humanity. And it's huge for me. And my faith is strong.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Althea.
Janine, I consider myself somewhat of a syncretist. I don't believe that any religion has a corner on the market. There are things, there's goodness that arises from from the various religious traditions. And what I look for are those connecting threads. When you see threads that are connecting, you know you're dealing with the same fiber, you're dealing with the same cloth, and you have something that you can start to make use as a foundational piece for the garment that you're going to wear. And so I found myself running from my religious upbringings at one point, and basically even becoming somewhat of an atheist. But I've come around from that to, after suffering a personal tragedy, actually, I found myself through meditation. I found myself through introspection. I found myself through a lot of soul searching. And I've read some things from the Kabbalah. I've read a lot of things from Buddhist tradition. I've read things from some things even from the Christian tradition that I was raised in. But I still consider myself somewhat, again, a syncretist, just taking the goodness from all of the traditions, whether they're Native American, whether they're African. There's a line, that runs through all of these traditions, and that brings them all together under that one God, and so that's kind of where I am.
I love where you are. Not that you care whether we love it or not, but I love where you are. So here you have it. We are the descendants of James Edward Ruffin, Belle Ruffin, and Ida Mae Ruffin, Gresham Ruffin.
Yep.
None of us enjoyed being only children. Every single sibling had enough kids for everybody. And we still have a huge, huge family. And in this huge family, we know that there are some men and women, boys and girls, who are struggling with their sexuality. And they have, at least, as you said earlier, Cynthia, 3 things. You got your cousin Janine. Some of you call me Jeannie. You got your cousin Althea. You got your cousin Cynthia. We know that we are lesbians. I thought it was kind of interesting. All of us, let's see your wrist. All of us, I thought that was so cute. I was like, oh my, everybody has the colors on them. We know that, right? Oh, I see it. Okay. We know that that's what we have in this family, and there are others who are watching right now. You have friends or you have relatives who are struggling. The month of June is a magnificent month to shine the light on pride and to really have conversations that people don't generally have on this topic. We hope that we were able to open up a dialogue here today, giving our twist, talking about our journey. We didn't get a chance to even talk about our careers. All 3 of us have enjoyed and are enjoying magnificent, successful, professional careers. And we're doing things to change the world. Each of us is. And, one of the things I'll laugh with you, Cynthia, I already told you, I looked on your Facebook page one day and I got so jealous. I'm like, What's she doing sitting up there with Angela Davis? That's my idol. I loved it. I said, that's my cousin sitting there with my idol. And then I wonder if they're dating. So you set me straight on what the real deal was of that photo. But that was
Well,
awesome.
I did post it. I did take a selfie and post it and said, "Look who's my date this evening."
Exactly. You did. I got jealous, but I said, okay, that's all right. That's all right. But I have to tell you, I'm so proud of you. I'm so glad to be reconnected with you. And let's do this again. Let's come back on and do this again. We're going to end the show right now, just where we started. I hope that each of you has learned something tonight. I want to hear from you. Message me. Some of you have my cell phone. Text me, whatever. We can talk. And why did I want to do this tonight? You know, the Insider NJ has a list that comes out every year called the Out Power Out People, Most 100 Out People in New Jersey. And for 2020, I was selected as the number one most influential person of that group. And I was really shocked about it. I was almost a little embarrassed about it because I'm like, what the heck have I done to really be number one? And then this month, the Advocate came out with their 100 champions of pride throughout the country. And I was selected as one of the two from New Jersey. So I made a decision that if I'm going to be on these lists, I'm going to take an opportunity to call attention and shine a light on the issue of this lifestyle, this, whether it's orientation or whether it is preference. I don't care what it is, and have dialogue so people can feel a lot more comfortable with who they are. So we're living our authentic selves. We're going to end the show. My dear cousins, who I love so much, Althea Ruffin, Cynthia Ruffin, you ladies rock.
Take care.
Have a great weekend.
Love you both. Take care.
I love you both as well. Thank you.
Love you more. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.